Well, it's my pleasure to welcome Gregory Stenstrom. As many of you know, he's a forensic investigator, the author of The Parallel Election, and the thorn in the side of many, many judges in Pennsylvania and probably around the country. Welcome to the meeting here.
Thanks for having me back, Richard. Hello, everybody. I recognize most of the people here. I think I know, and you guys know me, so it's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, well, please fill us in on the ongoing legal battles, and maybe you can comment on the announcement about the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and where you see things going in Bucks County and elsewhere.
Sure. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court and the U.S. Supreme Court have had previous rulings that said that they can't count mail-in ballots or provisional ballots without signatures and dates. They also said that they can't process ballots received after the election. I think this is the third double secret probation, the third, what do they call it, the Animal House. This is the third order issued by a Supreme Court, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I guess the Bucks County and the 67 other counties in the state and the Secretary of the Commonwealth, Schmidt, and Governor Shapiro just don't get it yet. And the message is you can't count ballots from unqualified electors, which is someone who's not a U.S. citizen, not 18, they have to be 18 years old. They have to be residents of their counties. And you can't count ballots that come in after the election. And this is the third order that I know of. Pennsylvania Supreme Court came out with another order. What was more amazing to me was the fact that they had 3 dissenting judges. And if you really look closely at the order, not all the judges agreed. So we still have people that we need to throw nets over, both on the judiciary and the courts and places like Bucks County. Now, the Bucks County Board of Elections, the officials there, who are, quite frankly, deranged, have said they don't care what the U.S. Supreme Court says. They don't care what the Pennsylvania Supreme Court says. They don't care what the federal law statutes are. They don't care what the Pennsylvania statutes are. They know better than everybody, and that they're going to continue to count these votes. And they, to my knowledge, I think they may be counting them now. We got word that 5 counties, Bucks County and 4 others that were unnamed. We know it's not Delaware County. We know it's not Chester. But I got word just an hour ago that said that there were 5 counties counting ballots tonight. Whether Bucks County is one of them or that's the fact, the bottom line is Delaware County, Chester County, and Montgomery County have said that they're going to count their mail-in ballots and provisional ballots on Wednesday. We were in hearings. I was in a hearing with Leah we've been in multiple hearings over the last week and 2 weeks where we challenged mail-in ballots and provisional ballots. And our challenges were, you can't count them afterwards, of course, and you can't count them from unqualified electors. And what the counties have held, and the Secretary of the Commonwealth has held, that what they're saying, and this is coming from Governor Shapiro, is that they're on the voter registration roll, the SURE database, then they're qualified. Of course, that's completely, it's besides being insane, it's contrary to the law, it's contrary to the orders from the judges. But what they're interested in is stopping Trump. You have governors, now Shapiro's not one of them, but Newsom and several other governors. The New Jersey governor came out, and they must stop Trump at all costs, that they'll go to trench warfare, and that Jamie Raskin is calling for civil war rather than seat the president. So I don't think they have the political will at this point to try to not certify Trump. They may still try, but they're certainly going to try to shape the Congress and the Senate. And they've already got Lake. They came in with hundreds of thousands, not 10,000, hundreds of thousands of mail-in ballots, showed up after the election. And then they said, well, you won, but you lost. And now they just did that in Wisconsin to the congressman up there. He won, but he lost. They did it to a congressman in California who had won, but now he lost. And now Governor Casey, or not governor, U.S. Senator Casey, former U.S. Senator Casey, is now trying to steal the election from McCormick. Now, McCormick is sitting down in D.C. He's at the freshman senator orientation, thinking all is well. We did try to reach them. We were able to get hold of several people in his campaign. One of his attorneys has filed in Bucks County. The other attorney, that's Otter, and then attorney Bocchetto, who's a Philadelphia lawyer, is filed in the Philadelphia Common Pleas courts. But we told him that's the wrong venue. The problem you're having isn't county level, it's federal level. So after some convincing, they said, well, we're going to assign Jim Fitzpatrick and Wally Zimmerlong to this, which the best experience Wally and Jim have is losing. So I said, well, that's not a very wise decision. I said, all you have to do is sign on to our cases, the federal cases that we already have in motion as interveners. You can be walking into the Third Circuit or the Eastern District Court within an hour of filing. Well, that was on Friday. Today is, I believe it's still Monday. And they still haven't contacted us or filed any litigation. So I really don't know at this point what McCormick is going to do. I think they have every intent of trying to thwart the law, and that they're going to count these mail-in ballots and they're going to count these provisional ballots, of which they know the vast majority are fraudulent. And they're going to try to change the election, at least for Casey. Now, they got a couple of big problems here. The federal law requires that in the case of a 5% recount, typically they're just going to be interested in McCormick and Casey, or the 0.5% error or margin, which has been reduced to 0.43. Well, Trump's on the same ballot. Trump and Harris are on the same ballot with Casey and McCormick. So I'm scratching my head here is how they're going to be able to do the counting for Casey and McCormick and not get a count for Trump. But nevertheless, although the federal law says that's what they have to do, they said they're just going to count for the two, for McCormick and Casey. A lot of people here, they heard the first part of what I said before the election, and I said, all things being equal, the election's already been stolen, and it had. And I said they're going to announce Kamala Harris as the president on Tuesday night, unless we have a miracle. In all previous elections, we've had 67%, 68% is a monster turnout. In primaries, we have as low as 25% turnouts. For the last national elections, the last two, we had 66% turnouts, 66. So we knew that they had already collected enough mail-in ballots, and we knew and have federal cases in that there's corrupt code. The election machines have code that will change the outcome. We filed these cases with SCOTUS, we filed them with the federal courts, and they slow walked them for 6 months as we tried to stop them from using the machines. The Secretary of the Commonwealth for Elections, Jonathan Marks, admitted in court twice that the machines aren't certified or tested. And they actually admitted that there was unauthorized code. And they said, well, it's, it doesn't have to be on the EAC. It was a ridiculous argument. They said, we're going to run the machines, even though we know they're illegitimate. We're going to run these mail-in ballots, even though they know they're legitimate. And that's why I thought Kamala Harris was going to win. And I said, the only possible way to beat the algorithm is if over 80% of people show up on election day for President Trump which would be a miracle because it has never happened before, ever. And last Tuesday, 83 to 86%. We had people as high as 90% in some places, but over 80% of the people in the country, and in particularly Pennsylvania, showed up on election day, fought the lines, sat and waited for hours, were turned away. The election fraud and the fight that people had to go through to cast their votes, they got it done. President Trump, they said he only won by, less than 1%, 1%. It's my belief that President Trump, and I think most people here, he won in a landslide. He won, I believe he probably got 80% of the vote, if not more, in the country. And they just couldn't get the algorithms tuned enough, and they didn't have enough mail-in ballots in to change that. One of the things we did, and with your support and people here that have been supporting us, Delaware County, Montgomery County, and Chester County, we reduced the number of mail-in ballots from 2020 to 2024 by half. That's because we were watching the drop boxes with cameras. We were challenging the mail-in ballot applications. We challenged the machines. We filed the cases. I'm going to just walk in where it's no sirens. And we got the job done. In 2020, the Friday before the election, they said they mailed out 104,000 ballots. And 4 days later, they counted 137,000. This election, they said they mailed out 92,000 ballots. And the day of the election, they counted 80,000. Kamala Harris got 60,000 votes in 2024. Of the 137,000 illegitimate mail-in ballots that they counted in 2020, Biden got 120,000 of them. So just in one county, we cut the number of mail-in ballots in half, from 120 to 60. Similar things were done, we saw similar results in Chester County and Montgomery County. So I think more people listened to us and showed up to vote on election day than they did with the mail-in ballots and the provisional ballots. Since that time, in the past, I think it's 9 or 10 days now, they've found over 200,000 votes, provisionals and mail-in ballots that they intend to count. So as of, I think, Friday, they had already counted 57,000 new ballots that they can't assign a pedigree to. 57,000. And that's how they cut the lead down to 17,000 votes between Casey and McCormick in a week, by continuing to just find ballots and count them. The last thing I'm going to say is we have whistleblowers who work for the U.S. Postal Service who have seen a large number of mail-in ballots that showed up in multiple counties, and we have multiple whistleblowers. We're going to be bringing them forward this week. We also have videos of ballot box stuffing. We have a video team here in right now in Glen Mills, probably a golf ball shot away from me in a hotel. We're all working together to get videos out that help explain this. So I'm going to stop right now and ask, if anybody's got any questions of where we go from here.
Okay, any questions?
Greg, my biggest question is, okay, if the Pennsylvania Supreme Court says you cannot count these, then how could they not be in contempt of court in that ruling? And why wouldn't the McCormick campaign immediately enjoin with your filings? Like, what? Are we the only ones that care about this?
No, I think they don't. If you read in the book, The Parallel Election, we talk about a uniparty. Jim Fitzpatrick and Wally Zimmerlong have no interest in this. And McCormick and other people have trusted the RNC and entrusted Lawrence Tabus, with their safekeeping. And Lawrence Tabus is I wouldn't trust that guy with a pointed stick. So this is the third ruling. This is the first ruling. The whole subject of our Supreme Court case is somebody, which is the DOJ and the FBI, has to arrest these people, and they won't. You see? Then we went to the courts and we said, you have to do, a declaration and tell everybody what the law is. They wouldn't do it. And that's what allowed them to keep going. Now they're starting to see the light. And these federal cases that we have filed, that's all we asked for. We didn't ask for, stop the fraud. We just said, hey, just state what the law is. And then if they continue to break the law, we asked for a special master and to send in police officers, because that's exactly what needs to happen, Frank. We need to send in, if it was me running things, I would say, hey, I can stop this tomorrow. Give me 2 Pennsylvania state troopers. I mean, I wouldn't need an army. Just give me 2. Give me 2 Pennsylvania state troopers in an order, and I'll go down and arrest them. The Pennsylvania state troopers will cuff them. It's not like they're going to put up a big fuss. Throw them in the state trooper car, bring them into the court for contempt of court,
Right.
then put them in jail.
So Greg, jumping ahead, will these nefarious ballots be invalidated and the original count hold? Because, they're counting till they win, like they did with Norm Coleman.
Well, the courts have, well, we don't know, because when they say that, they can't do that, that's what happens. The cognitive dissonance I constantly deal with is, well, they can't do that. And I go, why can't they do it? They did it in 2020. They did it in 2021. They did it in 2022. They did it in 2023. They did it in 2024 in the primaries. They've done it in every election, of which we have the evidence of. We keep going to the courts and saying, they keep breaking the law. We've got them. We have filed criminal referrals against 12 judges, 4 dozen election officials. We've sued the Secretary of State. We've sued the governor, and we've said, the bottom line is, until the courts hear these cases, which they slow roll, nothing will happen. What they weren't counting on, Frank, and I think what they're terrified of, is President Trump. It was a miracle last week. Mm-hmm. And it looks like if he is the president, if they actually seat him, which I think they will, they're in big trouble, because then some sanity, I think, will be restored, because the executive branch, which is the president, can order the DOJ to do their job, which the other presidents haven't done, even if the Supreme Court won't. So it's, I know it's hard to deal with, Frank, and say, why isn't someone arresting them? But the someone who would arrest them refuses to do their job. The DOJ won't do it. The FBI won't do it. The Pennsylvania Attorney General won't do it. The district attorneys won't do it. And the courts won't find them in contempt. So that's why we're sitting here, and it's as insane as it is. Insane. That's the status.
Well, thanks, Greg, for that update.
Okay, we have Anastasia and then Maitri. Yeah. Okay, Anastasia.
Thank you again so much, Greg, for all you and Leah have been doing. You really have been the tip of the spear. And it's been a very confusing time with our elections, because we're hearing so much. So, for example, I was very excited today when my brother Kyle over here sent me a beautiful email, and I saw the Supreme Court, and then I had another friend send me an email, and the result, as you mentioned, was that these ballots are not supposed to be counted. So we had plans to go to Bucks County, because that's close to where we are here in Pike County, on Wednesday, and make sure to get to the commissioners and to very politely and in an organized fashion, voice our concerns that the election is over. This is not election season. This is an election day you're supposed to have. So now that the Supreme Court has deemed this to be not counting, and you're saying that there are at least 5 counties right now that are counting.
We're not sure, but that's what I was told, including Bucks, but we don't know for sure yet.
So my question would be this: as we all know, the commissioners are responsible for the elections. They also have solicitor, so that way they don't get sued. Township doesn't get sued. They don't personally get sued. I can't imagine how their solicitor wouldn't advise them to say, you're going to get sued if you go against the state Supreme Court. I
It's
mean, how
actually
can
worse
that
than that.
possibly?
Worse. It's a federal offense, 52 U.S.C., 28 U.S.C., 18 U.S.C. These are criminal offenses. Every vote that they put through from an unqualified elector on unqualified vote is 5 years in prison, each offense.
So my point is this. What would they think in a million years to try to keep trying to steal the vote when they can't and keep going through this? I just don't see it. So do you think that on Wednesday this meeting is even going to happen?
Yes, I think it will happen. And what they'll do is they're going to say that they are not counting votes with the dates and the signatures, but they're going to say they're counting votes for mail-in ballots they found. The reason I know that is that right now somebody over there is busily filling in the dates and curating the ballots. So what we fought with the counties on was qualified electors versus registered voters. We're on solid ground, and the reason that the courts have been quashing our cases and thwarting them is because when we do get that declaratory relief, which we will, these election officials will go to prison and they will be convicted. They've been judgment proof because, of course, Biden and they thought, Kamala Harris weren't, they were doing this with impunity because they didn't expect to ever be charged. But now with Trump going in, these people will be charged. And Anastasia, I think these people are just sick. I mean, literally not well. So I know everyone here, it's hard for, say, normies or normal people to go, why would you risk going to prison for 5 years? It's a complete disconnect. That's what we're dealing with. It's a,
again, and the math doesn't in the end add up. I mean, here in Pike County, for the first time ever, we had almost 100% of the Republican vote out. So you couldn't cheat. You really, I mean, how many ballots can you come up with?
right.
And I have a feeling that happened across several, if not many counties across Pennsylvania. So what would they think? How would they get the math? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But you're right. They're probably evil and there's things that we don't understand.
Well, they haven't reconciled a vote in Delaware County or Pennsylvania. They have not reconciled a single election since November 2020. They haven't to your point is you're saying, well, how could they reconcile that? They don't. I mean, I'm not kidding you. This is part of it's in the book. It's part of our court cases. And what I'm not enjoying it, but it's encouraging to finally have people understand, to ask the question is like, well, how can they reconcile that? They don't. Well, how did they reconcile it before? They didn't. The elections are a fugazi up until, it's a kabuki theater. But people are still voting. There's votes going in and they're counting them. But in order to win, for Trump to win, he literally had to break the algorithm. And he did. That's the miracle of Trump is he broke the algorithm. 80, like you said, what did you have? 100% in Pike County. Congratulations. I think we had 86% in certain places in Delco. I think we had a low of 83% of Republicans show up to vote on election day. It was I was choked up 2:30 in the morning. Liliana came down and said, Greg, Trump, they declared it for Trump. I was in disbelief and shock, and she was too. And I just immediately broke out into prayer.
Okay, all right, let's go to Maytree. Maytree? Unmute yourself. And then Pierre.
Yeah, this is Bill Allen, okay?
Oh,
Hey,
Bill,
Bill.
okay.
That's just one of my emails, okay?
Oh, okay, Bill, all right.
All
Now
right.
we see you.
But Greg was just on a call on Wednesday. That ended up being about a 4-hour call we were on. because General Flynn and everybody was on it. But why would you try and continuously break the law and chance going to prison? The jails are full of people that thought they could break the law and get away with it.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. They've been getting away with it for 4 straight years, evidently ever since COVID.
Yep.
So that's why they do it. And you've been fighting it, Greg. I'm following your cases. I read your cases. I'm one of them people that read cases. I love reading cases. And it's just like in our school district with porn in it. You think about this. Why would they have porn in it when it's against the federal law to have any form of porn in children's books, even if it's comics? But they do
Right.
it. And the school education system promotes that behavior, but yet they do it. And Phoenicia Redmond down there trying to fight this in court, all right? But you have to fight it. And when you get the courts that turned against Greg and Leah, how many times, and they finally got a case to the Supreme Court, that's why they think they can keep getting away with it.
Yep.
And that's what we're dealing with. Even though our state Supreme Court filed, if I'm correct, they said you can't do this, and they set the parameter. However, I think you said they're filing the wrong place. It belongs in the Third Circuit Court is where it belongs. Am I quite, if that's what I heard from you?
That's correct. They should be in federal court because they're breaking federal law. I don't think that it's bad that they're in those courts, but the courts are just going to slow roll it. They're not going to get any traction there. So
It's going to take.
Supreme Court was good. I like that, but
yeah, well, what you're saying, it's going to take so much time because they're going to go to their local court and then they're going to take it up through the system to the Supreme Court. All right, and it's slow rolled.
right.
And that's what people expect to happen because people don't know how courts work.
Right.
A regular person doesn't know unless you've been in the court system, you learn to understand it. If you're an attorney and you're not specializing in certain fields, they don't even know where it belongs sometimes, okay?
Right.
And this one directly, and you're right when you said it should be filed in Philadelphia in the Third Circuit Court. But people don't know that, so they locally get an attorney that doesn't know what they're doing, and then they go through this process, and what they're hoping for, that they get Casey seated.
Right.
All right, that's what they're hoping for, January 20th, that he is our senator again. And then they're expecting him to roll away, and then will Trump enforce these laws and remove Casey? Will there be people arrested afterwards?
Right.
That's all assumption that it will happen. Okay, we would pray that happens. Okay, but this is what we're dealing with, and I've been following you and Leah since the beginning. I see you up there at the festival up there up north.
I remember.
Okay, I'm seeing you on these election integrity calls because I'm spending a lot of time on them now.
Thank you.
Because we need to stop this. And the only way we're going to stop it is in numbers, supporting their case, encouraging them, and if we have money, get our money to their case. But we still got to win these. I know Monroe County is one of them counties counting. They ruled to count these ballots regardless if they're legal or not. And that's what Bucks County said. I'm going down there Wednesday, 10 o'clock meeting. Well, 10:30, I'll be there at 10. You know, but we got to show up in numbers. We cannot sit idly just because the election's over. We got to get in action. And that's what on Wednesday the call was action, action, action. And
one thing, Bill, I want you to warn you of. I had friends who were down, on January 6th that got cut up. We got, Frank's here. And what I would advise people is to be very circumspect. And if things look like they're going to go a little crazy, take a step back. Okay.
Right.
That's what they're laying for. And
right.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I was there January 6th.
Yeah.
I knew it was a setup. I backed out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tough
Because
one.
I was back there in the early 70s when the same things happened. Okay.
Mhm.
You got to be aware of what's going on, peacefully have our voice heard, but we still got to show up in numbers, just like we did for the Amos Amos Miller thing
Right.
down in Lancaster County. The Patriot Coalition, which I'm the outreach coordinator for, we made sure we had our people there peacefully demonstrated. It's our right. And we have to show up when these things are going up in numbers and support one another, and we're not going to lay down anymore. They got to understand that. And that's why I follow you wherever you're at. I'm getting on these calls, or if get up to the Freedom Festival to be part of that, to get to listen to people, get information, disseminate it. I mean, we're already arranging stuff in Philadelphia because I'm running We Are One Unity initiative down there, setting up the new Black to Red, okay? A coalition of Black people and how to take over their wards in Philadelphia and be productive to make change and get them over to the red side.
Okay,
Ready to start the Hispanic outreach for the same reason, but we got to win now. I want to thank you for everything.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Let's go to Pierre and then Kerry.
Yeah, Greg, I have two questions. For Wednesday, is it good to come early?
We hear you.
Okay, it's good to come early and to fill up the seats
Yes.
before the Democrats have come.
Yes, they'll fill the seats up. I mean, how far? I don't think it's that far a drive. Bucks County is probably less
2
than an hour,
hours.
most of you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think getting there early and filling the courtroom up would be good. They'll probably put you in an overflow in another courtroom, or you may have to wait outside. So even if you don't get a seat, I think just knowing that people are there in droves will be of it will let the Board of Elections know that people are watching them.
So they open the door before 10?
My understanding was it started at 10, or I just got the email, and people asking us to go up. I've been specifically asked, they asked me to go up because I had challenged some of the votes around the county. So assuming all goes well, I'll be there, but we're standing by. We'll know more tomorrow, and
Okay.
I'll be heading up if assuming that the hearing still is held.
My second question is that since in the US, people don't have to show their birth certificate or passport to register, basically, can we say that nobody is a qualified elector, really?
Yes, I think that is accurate. It's not a surprise that the only states that Harris won were the states with no voter ID. I think that's very telling. President Trump has promised that they will be doing a reform of elections. One of our goals is to continue to fight and go and get them to rescind Act 77. It was a bad idea to begin with. The people that were involved, quite frankly, were all corrupt, and that inflicted this on us. And I think we've shown at this point, the corruption that takes place. And I think the legislature and the Senate is going to have no choice but to return some sanity, because this is just going to keep happening. We can't just solve it this time and expect it to get better. We're going to continue to fight this.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Pierre. Kerry.
Thank you. First of all, Greg, I heard you and Leah speak at the Freedom Festival, and when you were there, and I just really want to thank you for the incredible fight and your spirit. My question, a little similar to Pierre's. I'm planning on going to Bucks County on Wednesday, and do you have any just advice for what stance we should take, if we're a chance to say anything, what we should say, if we have signs, what they should say, just any guidance for people that are going?
I don't have anything off the top of my head other than to be peaceful. Signs would be obey the law, stop the fraud, some of the more obvious things. I think the people just showing up and being peaceful too, it's just, if there was 1,000, 2,000 people there, I think that, and they're peaceful, I think the Board of Elections there might get the picture that it's not going to go as well. Part of the problem is they think that they're in the majority. they literally think they're speaking for the majority, and they're not. They don't understand that they're a very small minority, and that's part of the derangement syndrome. And I think just showing up will be enough. And I just want everyone to be safe and use their heads. And I know people that are going, knowing Bill will be there. I don't know if Frank will be there, but Pierre, I think knowing the people that will be there, you got a lot of people there with a lot of common sense that are going to protect the crowd, protect the herd.
Great. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Terry.
Okay, Maria.
Okay. Did you get any of my emails, Greg?
I did, Maria.
Did you happen to
Terry.
look at anything? I would suggest, and I've been saying it, I've had the same stance probably for the last 5 years. Been studying for 5 years. If everybody's going to take the time to go there and speak, why don't you throw together an affidavit of their treason? And they have to respond to you, and they're not going to be able to. And when they don't, they're going to be agreeing with you. So you can start the process and create a court of record to start actually making sure that they have to vacate their seats because they're violating their trust indenture. I just like paper because it's peaceful, it's factual. And what do you think 1,000 or 2,000 actual notices from each one of the people is going to do when they say, hey, we're just letting you know you're committing treason? I think that might light a fire under their behinds. Personally, I did it for Luzerne County. They can actually just copy that one. And it certainly, I don't think it would hurt.
Right. I agree. And I will be back in touch with you. I've just been buried in the case.
If anybody wants it, just grab yourself 2 people as a witness. You don't need a notary. You could get it notarized if you want, but if they just want to. So everybody get 2 friends, and they use each witness each other's. And then as you go in there, hand them a notice and back it up with sending it certified. And then just say, you got 7 days to respond. TikTok. Have a good day.
Right.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes. Hello.
I'm here. Hey, Daryl.
Hey, how you doing? Great job.
Good. Thanks.
I was in Philadelphia that night. I was at in Germantown at it was a Jewish synagogue, and they had a polling. People coming to vote. I witnessed at least 2 or 3 frauds where there were people coming in with, they had the COVID mask on voting, and they just said a name. They didn't check IDs. They didn't ask for IDs. You couldn't see their faces, so you didn't know who they were. But they had masks on, and they just said a name. And so the people just let them vote. And I just found that so disturbing. And, it was just to me, it was a sad state of affair. I was in Reno. I was in Reno for 5 weeks, in Georgia, and seeing all these things, but coming back into Philadelphia, and watching people vote with no ID, and they just had a mask on. They didn't show their face. Now the reason that to me was so disturbing, and how they just knew. First of all, they all knew that Trump was going to lose. And, it was a sad state of affair. And it's like that. You're right. In Pennsylvania, but in Philadelphia, they just allow anybody to come vote. They just, all you got to do is say a name. And they don't care. They don't check. They don't ask for IDs.
It's true. It was a group that came up from DC. They had voter protection. Those are activists that come up with no IDs, no pedigree. They really shouldn't be allowed in as observers and so forth, but they are shipped in here. And that's exactly who you saw. And we have brought that up, and we've made criminal referrals. So our expectation is that when sanity returns, that these criminal referrals will be acted on, and these people will be, in fact, arrested for their own election interference, intimidation, and for fraud, because that's what we've been dealing with now for 4 years. And again, I think we've all should be thankful for a miracle. And I have to run in here soon. If anybody has any, Daryl, I will reach out to you, for your next show. Today I was really jammed.
Oh, okay.
Today.
Yeah, not a problem. I definitely want to have you and Frank on. And I've been just doing these shows, promoting what's happening, and people are, you know, and I've told Richard this, the biggest concern is making sure they don't assassinate President Trump. And
I think it's a genuine concern.
and it's, to me, it's like almost a calm before the storm. And anything is possible. You know, I don't trust no, you know, I trust President Trump. But do I trust the individuals around him or some of those Republicans who made us go along and get along? And the Democratic Party, there was one lady, she's a Democratic activist, and she said on her blog, on her Facebook blog, that if he makes it past 2020, I mean the January 20th.
Yeah.
And she said that they're saying this and openly saying it. That's the disturbing part. If he makes it.
I'm sorry to know. Richard, I'm sorry, I'm out of time. Is
Okay.
anybody left?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to encourage people to go to patriot.online and you can donate there to Greg's work. Thank you, Gregory, for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Greg.
Bye-bye, guys. I'm going to take off. All right, thanks. Okay, sorry I have to go.
Don't forget to donate. I'm going there now. So, all right. Well, Rich, that was great. Thanks for recording that. Let's get this out.